Hello everyone, welcome to Essence of Thought. This is Aditya.
And of course, I'm Peter/Ethel, as hopefully know by now.
Anyway, today we are doing Love Letters to
Reason.
Reason. Yes. And we'll be reading out letters. We're reading out one letter.
Yes, it's one letter today, just once.
Just one letter.
Sadly, we've had a bit of a delay getting these out because when I first asked for them, I did the one, and then YouTube just started messing around with a load of things. I got distracted with that, and we never really just found the time just to come out and do them, so we're working through a backlog, and we hope that you'll keep writing more as well. So, yes. Some of the questions that we get are kind of dated because they're kind of time sensitive. We'll still respond to them, of course, but they may not have the biggest relevance right now. And we're sorry for that. That's completely, well, it's mostly my fault. If you have any time relevant questions, by the way, great piece of advice here. Ask us via Curious Cat because we'll respond quicker that way. Otherwise, Love Letters to Reason, great way to go. So yes, I think the first letter we have is from viewer Capri, or Capri.
Capri?
Either way, if we could just play the letter.
First of all, thank you. Sometimes it feels like everywhere I turn, someone's being problematic, but never you two. You're such compassionate and intelligent people. As someone who's Arrow Ace, I can't describe my joy when I first heard you mention aromanticism and asexuality. It's also so refreshing that you don't kiss religion's ass. Essence of Thought is one of my favorite YouTube channels. Now that I've brought a good dose of sunshine, time for what I do best, ranting. Holy hell, am I so tired of people using the term, in quotes, politically correct incorrectly. It's not everything that's inclusive. PC and inclusive are not one and the same. Anti-SJWs call everything inclusive PC to discredit it, even when it's clearly leftist or liberal views being practiced. That's why they do it. The term is basically just bullshit slander at this point. Politically correct is by definition neutral. And yet we're called that for not being neutral. It was nice getting that out of my system. Now for questions. How did you guys, especially Peter/Ethel, feel about Scarlett Johansson getting the role of a trans man and her decision to resign from the part? What are your favorite YouTubers? Do you label yourselves as anti-theists? That is all. I truly appreciate you guys doing this and taking the time to read my letter.
Well, thank you so much for your letter, Capri. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. And thank you for letting us know that Essence of Thought is your favorite YouTube channel.
Yes, it's really lovely to hear things like that. The only thing that we're kind of sorry to hear is the way that you feel like you have to congratulate us for just minor mentions of the existence of ace people. I mean, that really speaks volumes to the way society is in how it doesn't acknowledge their existence when it really should be.
One of the things that I keep getting, or rather I see on the internet, is when somebody who is not asexual but is dating somebody who's asexual, when they're asked questions like, how does it work? I mean, how do you reply to this question? I mean, how does it work?
It's none of your business. That's how it works. Just mind your own stuff.
It's creepy, isn't it?
It is kind of creepy to ask strangers about their sex lives, but yeah, that's the thing about a cis heteronormative world. They feel they have that right. Yeah. The only sort of ace representation that we really see on a regular basis is very often the one-track minded, sci-fi super soldier. That's the closest I can really think of.
Or Varys.
And that's not designed to be ace representation. It's not normal, ace representation. It's just coincidental. This trope and archetype has this trait which could be conflated with ace.
Yeah, I mean, the only example I can think of from all the things I watch is, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but this is a fan theory, but Varys from Game of Thrones, because when asked who he's interested in, he says none, even when he was not mutilated.
That's the problem when you're having to read between the lines to see any sort of representation, because there's nothing written for, or even better, by ace people.
But even if it is true, even if tomorrow George R. R. Martin confirms this. I mean, come to think about it, it's again not a normal representation, because there's this person who's had to go through this mutilation, and that's formed his entire narrative, and that's you know.
We're sorry that you're kind of stuck with this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We wish it was a better world where our little mentions weren't,
Yeah, if they weren't that
so
noteworthy.
special. We work for a world where what we do isn't anything different. But I think that's, yeah.
Yeah.
As for anti-SJWs, going on about the PC culture, it's kind of funny because the people who do this, in my general experience, are the biggest tone police in existence. And that's not the same thing. Being PC and being a tone police is not the same thing. Being PC is about treating people with their innate qualities with a basic level of human dignity. But these fuckers, they don't care about that. They're happy to abuse trans folk, people of colour, any demographic that they're not part of. Meanwhile, they'll demand that you treat Nazis, KKK members, white supremacists, all of these dredges of humanity, if you can really call them that. They'll demand you treat them with the uppermost, not just respect on a basic human level, but authority. And it boggles the mind as to how this is a thing.
I've never really understood what PC actually means according to these anti-SJWs, because they just throw around the term the way they throw around the term SJW as a slur.
It's the same way to delegitimize anything. It's like the whole idea of delegitimizing or, making female sexuality to look out as a bad thing by labeling any woman who has, a decent sex life a slut. Therefore, by degrading that, they degrade the people who partake in the act, even if there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just, if we can make this word a bad word, then maybe we can discredit the idea without ever actually tackling the idea behind said word.
So it's like when toxic males just call anyone gay if a certain man does not follow the standards.
It's not so much what's being stated that is bad, but the implication behind the word itself has taken on so much baggage that the word itself is toxic, and by using it, you make it more toxic. You enforce that toxicity.
It's a double-edged sword, then, isn't it?
Not really.
I mean, you're not just hitting out by turning the word into a derogatory term, but you're also hitting out at other people who fall in the...
right, okay. It's not. That's not a double-edged sword. That's a widespread. that's hitting a load of people at the same time. Yes, you hurt the demographic whilst hurting the individual at the same time, and that's why it's such a big problem. Even if the context isn't, I'm just using the word gay to say something bad, even though I'm not homophobic or anything. Well, you're hurting, all gay people by using said word. A double-edged sword is something that cuts the person holding it.
This is what happens when English is not your first language. How did you guys, especially Peter Effel, feel about Scarlett Johansson getting the role of a trans man and her decision to resign from the part?
Well, this is something I got asked about a few times, and I didn't look into it that detailed until actually it's sort of blown over. And as you can probably tell, this is one of the more dated questions. What are my thoughts about it? Well, there's several things to consider about it. It was a problem, and the reason it was a problem was because the number of roles going for trans people, of trans characters, they're pitiful. The amount of them going is just really ridiculous in how few they are. And this becomes another problem in the fact that it's so hard for a trans person to enter the field. So when a trans role comes along, hey, this is a role that I should be at the forefront for getting because, it's an experience I've lived, I know about, I can easily act. But you get passed over by some cis person, you never get given a chance, and that stops trans people entering the movie industry, which is a really big problem because it's not a case of trans people don't like to be in film or TV. It's just the fact that the current system is really stacked against them. And this is the same for most demographics, it's the same for characters of colour, certain... It's not just gender, of course, it's also sexuality. There are various different ways that this really is a problem. So you have a character which is trans, that should be a way for trans blood to come into the industry. and it disappears.
And there's also this bit that I read about when this whole thing was on fire, where transgender activists and transgender actors had said that having a cis person play the role of a transgender person perpetrates the idea that
A trans man is really a woman pretending to be a man, and vice versa. Yeah, there is that wider context which exists here in ways that don't exist in other ways. For example, when they change the ethnicity of a character, no one's under the impression that by that change, they're trying to have a black person pretend to be a white person. But when you enter the gender element, especially with trans people, in the current context with the papers attacking trans people continuously, I mean, just now we've had the UK papers reporting that a false feminist, a pseudo-feminist, has been arrested for misgendering, when no, they were arrested for making abuse allegations against the parent of a trans child. Publicly, repeatedly doxing them, etc. The child, not the parent, the child. This is constant abuse coming in. So that context with this situation, they're not separate. They add together. It's like the whole, you go to a football match, you pick a banana and you start waving it at a black football player, making monkey noises. You could just say, well, that's monkeying around. But the reality is, we all know the racial implications of that. Black people are very often being compared to monkeys, apes, etc. We're all very aware of that context, so when a person does that, they're trying to dehumanize them. So there's an extra layer there that's not necessarily present with, ethnicities changing. Yeah. However, the other issue I mentioned is more universal in the fact that, people of colour don't have many roles compared to, white people.
Yeah, and I would have been honestly less pissed off if this was a cis man playing a trans man, but this is a cis woman playing a trans man, which...
It still would be a problem?
It still would be a problem.
But it'd be better. That's the thing. It'd be better.
It would be just one step better. Yeah. About the next question, who are your favorite YouTubers? Well, I'm not going to name a lot of atheist channels because pretty much everything I watch is everything they watch. Godless Cranium stands out quite a bit for me.
Godless Iron.
Yeah.
The Hispanic atheist.
Yeah, who's
Luciano writes.
No, not Luciano. Luciano.
You don't like Luciano?
I know. I love Luciano. If you're watching this, I love you. No.
Betrayal.
No. But the thing is, I keep forgetting his channel name.
Godless Iron.
Matthew.
Godless Iron.
Oh, okay, that's him. Okay.
That's them.
Yeah. But to be very honest, I do watch YouTube for a lot of other purposes, and it depends on my interest. So
I don't. I'm a sadist.
So no, you do watch a lot of Robot Chicken.
That's not on YouTube though.
I don't know.
I watch a lot of D&D stuff. I watch a lot of Puff and Frost. Anyway, sorry, I'm taking up your time. Go on.
I do watch a lot of Game of Thrones channels, so there's Rawrist. I don't agree with her on everything because, she likes Stannis and I hate Stannis. But there you are. And then like Emergency Awesome, Alt Shift X, blah, blah, blah. Then let me think, who else do I watch? We actually both like...
Lindsay Ellis.
Lindsay Ellis, yes! Oh my god, her video on Twilight is actually one of my favorites. And who else? Oh my god.
Wow, there's ContraPoints, H Bomber Guy, the rest of BreadTube.
Yes. Oh, yes. I also watch a lot of cooking videos, though. Like, there is not just one video or not one channel that I'm partial to, because it really depends on what I'm cooking. But yeah, pretty much I owe YouTube for teaching me how to cook, which was like pretty much a year ago that I properly started cooking. I also watch a lot of, sometimes I binge watch fitness channels because, I get into the zone of trying to work out, and I just try to
I don't try. I just exist.
Oh, and the other thing I do watch quite a bit is meditation channels, but I have to be careful with that because a lot of meditation channels often talk about the
The
source,
woo zone.
your God up there. And the thing is, I don't have a higher being. I don't have a higher power up there. So Mark Gura is actually very good for that because he's a member of Atheist Alliance America, and he's done a lot of work on atheist meditation. I don't think his channel has much on that because he's more of a writer, but do check him out.
With me, I think I've already mentioned, I watch a lot of Goddess Tranium, Goddess Iowan, Luciano Writes. There are a few other channels out there. I watch a lot of the people I respond to quite a bit. That's the sadism I mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of IERA and London Dawa movements and stuff like this. Always looking for pain in the most excruciating manner.
Yeah, I generally avoid binge watching all of this stuff. I will watch if something catches my fancy, and I have to breathe a lot of times because I'm the kind who gets quite affected. But I also just remembered we're also playing online D&D with Godless Cranium and Luciano.
Yes, Luciano Writes.
Yeah, and
Inane Dragon.
Inane Dragon, yes, and they have been uploading. Godless Cranium's been uploading those sessions in a new channel called Alignment Unknown.
You remembered the name this time.
Yes, I've been re-watching our sessions, and
I died in the first session.
yeah, I did really well.
That was
in
my
the second
first
one.
character who died ever in D&D, and it died in the first session.
I think
That was a good sign. And then the next session I had, another character died. not this one, but like another session with someone else.
I feel so bad. I was about to die, and I just fled.
I stuck in when I shouldn't. I should have fled.
Yeah. What do you play in this one?
I'm now a Kobold Paladin. I just became a Kobold Paladin.
So do you do spells?
I have spells, but mostly I'm just waiting to get to second level for that sweet, sweet Divine Smite.
Okay.
Anyway, last question is, of course, well, are we anti-theists? Should I go first on that one?
I could do it.
I can go first.
I can go first.
Okay, then go first.
I think on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being extremely anti-theist, I would be somewhere 8 or 9. I think when I come... I have my reasons. I was not brought up in an Abrahamic religion, which means if you consider my school, I was brought up in I studied in a Catholic school. But otherwise, sometimes like when I look at people like this one sitting beside me and
this one,
yeah, and some of my Western friends out there, I realize that there is this whole difference where I haven't had. I don't know how to say this. I mean, it's not good, but I think I've had different ideas shoved down my throat. So at the same time, as an atheist, I mean, if you watch my personal deconversion story, you'll find out that because it doesn't register with a lot of people what atheists are, Hindus don't generally go all out on you if they know you're an atheist. So I've generally been a little more... I don't want to use the word tolerant because Peter is tolerant, but I'd say a little less angry about theists existing. I kind of understand sometimes, just sometimes, where they're coming from, because living where I live, crossing that bridge is is a huge deal. And also because I've not been really like, yes, I have faced persecution once it actually sinks in as to what being an atheist implies. But generally that word itself is not going to make people go all out like, the way I've seen happening in a lot of Muslim and Christian communities.
I, on the other hand, likely am in many ways. I guess it kind of depends on how we want to define anti-theism. I mean,
yeah.
I'm pro-education. That's pretty antithetical. you see what I did there? Yes, sorry. Anyway, but when it comes to most religions, no, I don't have the militaristic desire to exterminate all religions at any cost. That's definitely not there. Nor do I find it that I'll likely continue going on if, say, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism were to disappear. There are certain other religions out there that I do take issue with on the same sort of degree. But, for example, I'm not going to hunt down and harass pagans. I'm just going to increase education to the point that hopefully any children they have won't believe in the same bullshit. But when it comes to like Christianity, I am avidly anti-theist when it comes to them. And I've got a video that I'm working on this one at the moment, which explains sort of why, because the whole Christian institution is based fundamentally on utilizing abusive methods of control, like those seen in domestic abuse, to get what it wants. And as someone who's lived through that, who's witnessed that, I can't tolerate that. Saying I should just tolerate it and just deal with it being there, it is kind of like that tone-deaf aunt saying, well, I know this family member fiddled you once, but can't you just like let them come to your wedding or something? It's like, no, I refuse to let the institution just roll on as it always has. It needs to be called out. It is abusive to the core, and it cannot be tolerated in any civil society. But again, this is just that specific religion. It's Christianity, and I would throw Judaism and Islam in as well.
Abrahamic religions.
Definitely the Abrahamic religions. There are possibly smaller ones out there that I'd likely view the same, but none that come up to mind right now. But yeah, so I guess that kind of answers it. It depends what religion we're talking, how aggressive its adherents are. Is it inherently abusive in its doctrine, so it can't actually be deactivated without stripping the entire thing away? There's so much loaded into that question, but I'm definitely not going to be starting up creating military camps sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm not that sort of person, and I do realise that there's a time and a place for everything. My mum believes if, say, hopefully 40, 50 years down the line, being very hopeful here, she's on her deathbed, I'm not going to be there like, you must deconvert. That's not what I'm going to be like. I'm not going to do a Lucille Williams, as I believe her name was, the preacher I recently responded to a few months back, who said that she does this to her family members. She literally tries to convert them on their deathbed. I'm not that sort of person. I'm going to be open about what I think. I put it in a public place. People can respond to it, and as long as we want a conversation, that's fine. I am going to, however, forward education, particularly sex and relationship education, which I believe will inevitably result in the demise of many religions, specifically Christianity, Islam, and Judaism.
Yeah, I'd also like to add, speaking of time and place, I do know atheists who do that, who try to shove things around. It's one of the reasons I didn't talk about in my personal deconversion story, but even when I had admitted to myself that I'm an atheist, I didn't feel like saying it out aloud because, I've seen members of the community who do this, and to them, I'd like to say that sometimes you don't know why a person is theist. They may have certain beliefs, but let it be. As a person who suffers from mental health issues, yes, a lot of people would say religious is a mental health problem.
I hate that saying.
Yeah.
That completely ignores the definition of, that's...
Don't. I mean...
That's not just ableist, it's factually incorrect. Go read the definition from the DSM of mental illness. Socially conditioned, beliefs and ideologies cannot inherently be defined as mental illnesses.
Yeah. Really, just yesterday I was thinking about, and I often think about this, that, when I have anxiety attacks and, when I have, I was just going through an anxiety attack. I've been drinking wine it's almost over. Anyway.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Video's nearly over.
Yeah. Yeah, so... Yeah, just yesterday as well, I was thinking, like I do very often, how much easier it would be for me to believe that there is something out there. Because when you feel like, when your mind does this thing to you where it's playing all the negative things you've been fed, all the negative memories you've been fed, like a movie reel, the only thing that helps is knowing that there is something or somebody out there to
It's pining for a secure force.
Yeah, and I honestly do miss it. It's really difficult. The only thing is, once I've seen the truth, I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't make yourself believe, that's the thing.
I can't make myself believe, but honestly, I just wish sometimes I was not an atheist.
The problem is, of course, when discussing about right time and place,
Yeah.
the religious like to define the right time and place as never. Like, posting on YouTube and then someone comes up, why are you attacking me? It's like, I'm critiquing your religion in a public forum. I'm not saying anything about you as an individual. I'm not saying anything should be done to you as an individual. So I'm not attacking you. But yeah, I think that's really it. I think we said all we really want to say on the matter. So again, Capri, thank you for writing into us. It was a wonderful letter, and hopefully our ramblings have answered your questions.
Yes, thank you so much, and we'll be back with more letters. And do you write to us, all of the others who haven't
Email
done
will be
it?
down below.
And do mention very clearly if you'd like us to keep it anonymous, or maybe mention your name, because I know it's quite difficult for a lot of you.
If you want us to keep it anonymous, the best way to do that is just sign it anonymous.
Yeah.
Or give yourself a pseudonym. We won't go by whatever name's attached to your email. Just give yourself a pseudonym by saying sincerely, signed, whatever.
Yeah. Thank you so much. See you later. If you have any questions about everything we just answered, everything we discussed here, please comment on the stuff
Down below, comment
yeah,
section
just
down below.
comment down below. Okay.
Now, I'll link a few videos at the end of this one, as I do with all my other videos. However, we'd just like to remind you that we are trying to make the channel go ad-free via Patreon. So if you want to support us on Patreon, that'd be great. We get to our target, we go ad-free, we don't have to worry about playing YouTube anymore or anything like that. You may have heard recently, Gollus Cranium his entire channel was just demonetized overnight. No explanation as to why. The best thing he figures it could be is that he uses other people's content in his response videos, even though that's well within the terms of service. I'll link that video down below actually, so you can just go ahead and give that a look. And speaking of Patreon, I'd just like to thank all of the wonderful people who have donated to the channel over the years, giving a special thanks to the following people: Hannah Banghart, Matthew Kovac, Brad R., Muck Gay, John Schoenrock, Daniel Martinez, Evan Heimberg, Alexander Williams, and Atlas5. Take care now, and we'll see you next time.